films that I did. Actually, the second film that I ever did was a film called Virtuosity with an early film for Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe. It was kind of I don't even know how you describe it. I don't even know if I remember it. A futuristic sort of like being involved in like a game world, which was kind of new back then in the mid 90s. Anyway, I get this part, this really good supporting part, and I'm thrilled. There was a premiere out in LA, but uh, uh, younger supporting actors they're not necessarily going to give you that flight out for the premiere. So my good buddy Max in New York, where I was living at the time, I said, "Come on, we're going to go to the theater. We're going to watch this on opening night." So we go to the theater, and we're about 5 minutes into the movie, and I said to Max, I said, "Listen, here comes the first big scene that I'm in," and the scene came up, and then it went by, and I'm like, well, maybe they moved it till later. Then the next scene comes up about 10 minutes later. I'm like, oh, this part right here, like that. Well, it wasn't in that either, and I'm like, they maybe they shuffled it around and everything. Well, they cut about 85% of what I did in the film, never made the cut. The next film that I worked on was the film Heat with Pacino and De Niro.
Mm.
Um, a very long script, and my agent sent it to me and said, I was in New York. I had to fly out to LA to get in a room with Bonnie Timmerman, the famous, iconic casting director. And my agent sent me the script, and it was like 170 some pages long, which is very long, as we know, for a film script. And my agent said to me after I read it, "What'd you think?" I said, "Are you kidding me? It's Pacino and De Niro. It's like this is an amazing Michael Mann. It's an amazing story." And my agent said, "It's only 5 scenes." And I said, "But it's 5 scenes you can't cut. They're
Mm.
they're what do you call it? They're consequential to the telling of this story,"
Mm.
which is what I realized from this film, Virtuosity, that the part that I was playing was not consequential to the story. So very early on, I got this lesson of like, is it gonna make it? Um, and over the years, I've been offered things or been asked to read something, and I've read certain things, and I just this just happened a couple of months ago, and I called my agent a couple of months ago about this film offer, and I said, I like the movie. The role is inconsequential to the story. It may never make the screen when this whole thing comes together. So, one of those things of like a very early lesson learned, and it's a good one. It's like speaking of just in a personal sense. I graduated SUNY Brockport in 1978 with my criminal justice major. And I took a bus from downtown Buffalo to Port Authority in New York City on 7th Avenue and 42nd Street. And I had $60 to my name. That's it. And uh, I remember walking out onto 42nd Street, and there was a three-card Monte guy, where they set up and you bet, and they got a little like, which card is the ace, and bump, bump, bump. It's all over New York City. I don't know if they do it as much anymore, but yeah, and I kept looking down at that three-card Monte guy, and I'm like, wow, man, this is my kind of town. I'm guessing the right card every time, like 10 times in a row. And then finally, there's like two people playing, and one guy shuffling the cards on a cardboard box so they could pick it up if the cops come. And the guy, after like 10 times of watching it, the guy's like, right at me, points at me, he goes, "You know which card it is?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "$20. You get $20 back if you win." I put the $20 down, and he flipped that card in. It was not the card. I thought, I was so stunned. I just lost like a third of my like value in the world. So, you know, I look back at it at the time, I was stunned, but I got to tell you something. I lived in New York for the next 30 years, and you learn lessons like that, and you don't bark up that tree twice.
Well, we're starting off with some fantastic lessons here, and we would expect nothing less from Mr. William Fichtner on
Hey,
Casting Buffalo, Podcasting Buffalo. And we're here to start this episode off. Kyle Mecca is not here. He's
Are you,
remote.
I thought you were Kyle.
We look a lot alike. You could confuse us, but he is remote today because he is stuck in Las Vegas. Stuck in Las
It's not a
Vegas.
bad place to be stuck, though.
That sounds like a Home Alone title.
Right.
It is.
It's not a bad place to be stuck.
For the huge William Fichtner interview.
I'm gonna do the Vegas vacation scenario over the next couple of days.
Kyle, you should.
Hold on a second. Are we all believing this story from Kyle that he gets stuck?
Right.
In Vegas.
That's a good point. That's a great
I
point.
mean, come on.
You know what, Kyle?
Whatever. You know.
You should go outside and start the 3-card Monte thing.
Right.
In Vegas.
I don't think I'll last long.
No.
I think they're on the lookout out here.
Yeah.
So, William, though, those are amazing stories. And to start off your career with that major issue that you never forgot, that's a great lesson for our listeners here, too, because you're passing that on and people are going to remember that and they will not make that mistake. So it may be hard for casting directors to get people cast in consequential parts in this area, but that's a huge lesson.
No, let me just tell you, for me, speaking as an actor, I think I've had that happen once or twice as well, early stages. But I think what Bill broke down about the role being consequential, right? That is a major nugget for a lot of actors that's out there, especially trying to advance your career. That was a gem just for me, looking at different scripts and when I'm, deciding what I can audition for and what parts are good. Now, putting that in perspective, is the role consequential, helps me navigate my career. So I appreciate that. Absolutely.
If the question is there, then you get a chance to talk to the director, you talk to the writer, you talk to the people involved with the project and say, hey, listen, I'm going to go to Toronto next week to work on this pilot for FX. And I liked the pilot a lot. And I had a couple of weeks ago, I had a Zoom with the creators of the pilot, these two gentlemen, one of which I had worked with before, was a producer of a little indie film I did a few years ago in New York. And I had this same conversation with them literally 2 weeks ago. I said, I got to be honest with you boys. You got to tell me your thoughts, because if this character is not in this pilot, I'm not so sure it changes anything to do with this pilot. Now, that's not to say that it has to be like a key centerpiece of something that happens. Sometimes I don't take things just for that. You got to have the right feeling about it. But now I ask the question, because what they said back to me was, well, there's a way to look at it like that in this pilot, that maybe that role isn't consequential, but we think it is very much so, and we'll tell you why. And after listening to them and explaining what their thoughts were about why this character's in here and everything, that was enough for me, where I went, I got it. Okay. Now, can they change it or remove certain things? Yes. But what they told me makes me think that they're going to want more of this character because of the pivotal relationship that he has with these key players in the story. So at minimum, it's worth asking, because if you ask a director, hey, what do you think about this? Because I'm not so sure the role is really important. If the guy doesn't have an answer for you, or girl, if they don't have an answer for you, then there's your answer.
That's amazing. As now that we're in this, Bill, I have so many questions just from the standpoint as a performer as well. My first question to you is that, with you having so much experience, in this industry, are you more comfortable as a lead or as a supporting character? And how do you go about choosing those roles?
Peter, listen to me. No one is ever going to hire me as a lead, okay?
Why do you
Let's
say
just put
that?
that
You're
out.
amazing. Are you kidding me? You gave a master class in the last film that we shot here, Cutman, which you starred in, and it was I watched you every single day on set. You gave a master class, and in my opinion, and I'm sure in the greater portion of the world, they will consider you as a lead. Why do you not see yourself as that?
No, honestly, I say that half joking. The truth about it is, it's an odd thing. It really is, and I think part of it is probably my own doing. I say this with no ill will or just the purest observation that I have about this business. It's a very odd thing that some people, if you are lucky enough and you've worked hard enough, because I really believe everyone is going to have, you go into this business, you move to New York, LA, or wherever you want to be, everybody gets a shot. Are you ready when you get it? My first agent told me, my first agent sat behind a desk in the Equity Building in Times Square. It was just him at a desk and an ashtray that was about as big as a large pumpkin. Come on in, Bill. And he never got me a job, but he told me, his name was Bob Barry. He said, listen, you put your 10 years in. It might happen before that. It might happen after that, but you got to put your 10 years in. It's kind of like that 10,000 hour thing. I think there's a lot of truth for that. And as my 20s went on and 30s, I began to realize, you know what? You hang in there long enough, you work hard at it, you're going to get a shot. Are you ready when it comes? That's the biggest thing. But as far as like leads, I really think in some ways it's a little bit of a roll of the dice if you get picked. And I really mean that. I've been friends with people that got that wonderful situation where they ended up with a lead and the right agent in the right circumstances, and you just all of a sudden you found yourself on that road. Now, part of the reason why I said I think of my own doing, it's, yes, if I played leads in things, independent things, yeah, gratefully so, like Cutman, and I'll love to dive in and talk more about that journey. But at the same time, also, I've had my agent, say, hey, look at this script. There's this great part. It is a really, co-lead part or something. I've read scripts where I called my agent back and I said, listen, that part's interesting, but this supporting part over here with 3 scenes, that's the guy. I want to go with that guy. I've had that happen more than a couple of times in my life. So, you know, did I sometimes back away from a leading man thing to play a supporting thing? Yeah, if that's the one that really spoke to me. Now I say that with no, ill will of, there's a lot of what happens in this business that some of it is just kind of in the cards, not in a bad way, not in a good way, just the kind of the way that it is. Um, and you can't drive yourself crazy about it. That's for sure.
Wow.
You go with the journey, and when your moment comes, you just you put your heart and soul into it. That's really, at the end of the day, for me. Uh, I think more than having leads, more than even when I was younger of being famous or anything, uh, I wanted to be good. Like I said before, when I moved to New York after college in the summer of '78, uh, I didn't audition for 3 or 4 years. I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts for a year that I auditioned and got into, but I didn't audition right away because I really wanted a sense of, I really wanted to feel like I knew what I was doing. Um, and because I think that's more important. If I had to pick between being a bigger leading man or have people, respect you for what you do, I'll take the respect of my peers.
That's amazing. I've heard something similar. I'm a mentor of mine. He's like a father figure. That's from Buffalo. Stephen McKinley Henderson kind of says very much similar, similar things in that he has played a supporting character, for the majority of his career. As a matter of fact, the first leading role that he really got was an off-Broadway play called Between Riverside and Crazy, and that was the first time he was like playing a lead. And I think that that's important for a lot of actors that are watching this podcast, because not everyone is a lead character, right? Like not everyone is for that. You may not, that may not be your thing. And I think that guys like Steven and what Bill is saying, they're leaning into the craft and the art more of it, and a supporting role might be perfect for you versus everybody's like, oh, I want to read for the lead. I get that all the time, right? So like anytime we're casting something, it's like, well, who's the lead? And I want to read for this person and this person, not knowing maybe a supporting character would be a better fit. So I think that that's a great lesson as well.
Listen, going back to talking about Cutman, uh, I remember the first time that I read the script for Cutman. God, we shot it last year in March in a whopping 17 days. Um, it was the November before that, so like 4 months before that, I remember reading the script for Cutman. And what was most appealing to me, obviously, was, I'm not interested in things because it's supporting or it's lead or it's small supporting or large or whatever. Um, but it's the journey. It's the characters. It's something that, you want to take that journey. I remember reading Cutman for the first time. I think it was like Thanksgiving weekend and in 23. And I remember calling Mike, my agent, and setting up a phone call with Michael Mailer, the producer, co-writer, director of it, and saying, having a conversation with Michael. And after that conversation, I'm like, I don't really want to. This was one of those rare times where I don't really want to do anything but this movie.
Right.
And, and I must be honest, a couple of things came along, and I just said, I unless you tell me that Cutman is absolutely dead and it's not happening, I don't really want to. I'm going to pass on this other thing. And Michael was confident that it would come together, and then when he discovered Buffalo, it really came together. But that's an example of, I didn't do Cutman because it's like, oh man, I want to play a lead in the film. No, I did Cutman because that's how much I wanted to be in that space and try to figure out this guy.
Amazing.
Let's talk a little bit about your relationship with Buffalo, because Cutman was filmed in Buffalo,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Just for the benefit of the listeners, because they're all over the spectrum of the acting outlook in Buffalo, could you just tell us a little bit of the background about Cutman and how it got made in Buffalo and your love for Buffalo?
Well, um, we'll have to set up another 4-hour session to talk about my love for Buffalo.
We can. We can. When you're in town, you can come to the studio.
No, listen, I don't think it's a secret out there of how much I love being home and I love my town. That's just not the sports, that's the people, that's the place. I've said this 1,000 times. I wish I had a buck for every time I've said this, but when I get off the plane at the airport in Buffalo and I walk out, not only am I like in my school district of Maryville where I grew up, but I take one big breath outside and I'm like, I'm home. And I've never felt like that any other place. I love New York City. I love LA. I'm more of an East Coast guy, but and I would move back to the East Coast, but my wife had a very definitive answer of no. So I'm living in LA, but I do love I love my hometown. So it has been I shot a film there, which these guys were all a part of. Uh, Shot a film there in 2017 called Coldbrook, that was really written for Cortland, New York, and I was going to shoot it in Cortland. But as I developed this relationship with our incredible film commission, Tim Clark and Rich Wald, these guys, Tim Clark basically said to me, he read the script and he's like, listen, I know that you can, do this in Cortland, but you really could do this in Buffalo as well. And it was Tim that started taking me around down to East Aurora and different locations. And I'm like, wow. I mean, I know we're a smaller budget film, which it's very hard to do, like a location change. But after really experiencing what it would be like to shoot it in Buffalo, it was worth it. And that's what we did. We shot like 3.5 weeks in Buffalo, and then did a company move to Cortland, New York, where we shot the last week in some exteriors. But you know, it's and I really say this in all sincerity. It's absolutely was a dream for me to not only be from Buffalo, but to go back and work there. To be there to work on Coldbrook that was the greatest thing I ever did in my entire career. And then fast forward a few years, and the story about Cutman and how it ended up in Buffalo is that, as I mentioned, Michael Mailer, uh, the director, he when I read the script and talked to him, he said, "Listen, we're going to shoot it in Newburgh, New York, which is about a 45 minutes an hour north of New York City, right up the Hudson River." And I'm like, yeah, I know Newburgh. I lived in the city. I've been in Newburgh plenty of times. But, as the weeks went on, he was having some issues with this and some issues with that. He couldn't. And I finally said to him after like no exaggeration, we're talking like early February. I said, Michael, you know, just for your own knowledge to help you out with this journey, that have a conversation with the film commissioner in Buffalo, Tim Clark. He goes, and he had met Tim one other time up there scouting or something. And he goes, yeah, I've met Tim. I said, you talk to Tim, he might be able to help you because some of these things, I'm not suggesting you move it to Buffalo. I'm just saying that Tim's very knowledgeable and I think he can really help you out with a couple of these things. Michael says, it's a great idea. So he calls Tim, true story, he calls Tim like on a Friday. And then he talks to Tim on Saturday, like several times. Talks to him on Sunday a few times. Tim's keeping me abreast of the fact that he's talking to Michael and about this and this. Michael calls me up on that Monday morning. We're talking 3 days later, and he goes, hey, you got a problem shooting this film in Buffalo? And I'm like, come on, stop right there. So that was it. Not only was that it, but Michael literally, which is unheard of, literally had about 3 weeks of pre-production to shoot this film. If 3 weeks of pre-production. I mean, he had his act together in every other way, but as far as going to Buffalo and putting it together, it's kind of unheard of. I took 2 months in Buffalo to get Coldbrook together. He did this whole thing in 2.5, 3 weeks. And the reason he could do it is because of the support of the Buffalo Film Commission. These guys just stepped to the plate in every way. And all of a sudden, boom, 3 weeks later, we're rolling the cameras, which was really wonderful. And we shot the entire thing in Buffalo. And I couldn't be more proud of the film, which we all had a chance to, I don't know if everybody present had a chance to see it when we did a cast and crew screening and for friends and family back in April 25th, I believe. And it was great to see it on a big screen. Now the journey begins of trying to find a home for it, which, we haven't found it yet, or Michael hasn't found it yet, but I know he's working hard at it.
That's it. Just an amazing point about how, Michael Mailer got sold on Buffalo, only because he loves Buffalo and he's actually here now. Yeah. I mean, Mike is in that same mode. I think that, you mentioned that 2 to 3 weeks of pre-production, that's his jam because that's what he's doing again now. You know what I mean? So yeah, Mike is that's his style and we're grateful, for the work here.
Well, he has, especially after Cutman. I mean, Michael will tell you straight out. He hopes that every movie he ever makes, he makes in Buffalo, and I get it. But the bottom line is that's what most people think when they go to shoot in Buffalo. They have no idea, and then they get here and they're like, "Wow, I got to come back." If you build it, they will come, and Buffalo's been doing that as well with sound stages and in a crew base. You got to remember back when we shot Coldbrook in 2017, it wasn't like it was now. We had to have 1 day of a studio shoot in order to qualify for the tax incentive, and I'm not sure where it was, but we found some warehouse and we're like, yeah, this looks like a studio. I think we were gilding a lily a little bit on that one, but we got it done. But times have changed, and crews have changed. Then you guys, with Casting Buffalo and everything, which there's not a person that I talk to that's going to Buffalo that I don't recommend you guys, and all of that makes all the difference in the world. People come now, and it's not like, oh, you're going to make a movie. It's no. Buffalo is absolutely ready. They're ready to, big studio pictures, small indie films. They're ready. And let's just hope that everybody keeps supporting all the great things that the governor's office is doing as far as the tax incentive, because it makes all the difference in the world.
So coming from where we were, you're sort of answered my question already. I was going to ask, what progress have you seen? But what can you say, what do we have to do next to keep it going? I mean, you're identifying all this progress. What is the best thing for actors in Buffalo to do to be ready when the time is right? crew to be ready when the time is right? What do you recommend?
Well, listen, I have said to, and this is really something of from, 40 plus years ago, but you got to remember, 78, I graduate Brockport with my criminal justice degree. My girlfriend at the time gave me a paperback book, kind of as a joke, because I had to take a few acting classes. I was kind of intrigued, but I'm still not thinking. You got to remember, in 78, pre age of information and computers, who knew an actor? You didn't know an actor unless it was the kids in drama class and your high school. Nobody knew a real actor, not really.
Right.
So that was a big deal. So when my girlfriend gives me this book called How to Be a Working Actor, it's kind of a joke, and it was a book. I still have that book at home in my man cave on the bookshelf. This paperback book. It was kind of like, well, if you go to New York, here's the schools. This is kind of how you get an agent. Here's a list of agents in New York. If you go to LA, and it really focused, a little bit on Chicago, but New York and LA. So for years and years, I would say to young actors, if they came up to me, oh, hey, do you have any words of wisdom? I would tell them all, go to New York. And the reason that I said that is like LA, there's nothing wrong with going to LA, but it's a lot of big studio walls with big gates in front of them. Unless you have an agent, it's very hard to get over those walls or get through them. New York to me was a place that, you could take a scene study class. You could walk down the street, meet another friend, meet a writer friend. Hey, we're going to do a reading of a play that no one is ever going to see, but you're in it. You're in it and you're doing it. And that's the most important thing, which is why I always suggested New York. But that's not to say, listen, there's no one way to do this. If there was a magic bullet on how to become an actor or a working actor, I would have written that book and we'd all be worth $1 billion. It's there is no set way. Getting back to what I said earlier. But when that time comes, are you ready for it? Have you been working all along? So I say this to actors in Buffalo, what are you doing today for your craft? What are you doing today as far as how are you cultivating your talent? Are you reading book? Are you reading plays? Are you thinking about things? Are you finding characters? Are you walking around when you're walking the dog around the block and trying to find, a rhythm of a guy that's for something that you might want to play in a play, even if it's a small part, it doesn't matter. Are you finding that thing? Are you realizing your piece of the puzzle, whether it's a lead part or a small supporting part? So I say the same thing. Are you taking classes? Are you involved in things? Are you putting yourself out there? Are you out there contacting you boys with Casting Buffalo? Are you out there and updating yourself? But most of all, are you being gentle inside with your head and your heart? And are you really putting your heart and soul into it? Now, I don't live in Buffalo and haven't for a long, long time, even though I like to get back a few times a year. But so I don't know what the rhythm is. I hear things that the theater scene is just growing and growing. I know that the film scene is growing and growing from things that I hear about. And, there's so much that's going on. So if your choice is to be in Buffalo, if that's where you want to be, well, then you got to, what do you call it? It's tough to make a living as an actor anywhere. But if you're in Buffalo, might be a little tougher even. But, that's not to say that you can't put your heart and soul into it all the time. Because if you don't do that, nothing's happening.
That's amazing. I tell my students that all the time. It's a thing where people are asking me like, well, what do I do as an actor? I'm in Buffalo. What do I do? And Bill, you know what you said was so pivotal. It's what did you do today to prepare for tomorrow's success, right? So like, what are you doing in between when the phone isn't ringing? Are you reading a play? Are you reading scenes? Are you taking a class? Are you updating your headshots? Like, what are you doing today to prepare for tomorrow? And, the landscape has changed all over, right? So, like, now we're in Buffalo, and it's not necessarily like a requirement for you to be in New York or LA anymore. Now we're in this age of like self-tape auditions and stuff like that, so you can be anywhere in the world and still, if you have a good agent or if you don't have a good agent, there's also avenues for that, websites, Actors Access, all those things that you could tap into and still prepare and still, kind of be in the rat race. It used to be a thing where you had to be in New York, you had to be in LA, and that doesn't exist anymore, right?
Yep.
So like now it's
It doesn't to a certain extent. And I get you. It is, people self-tape, you can be anywhere. But there is a little bit of that at the beginning of anyone's career. Unless you're very fortunate to find, an interesting role in let's say an indie thing or something that's shooting up in Buffalo and you really shine in it and the film has some outside success. The only difference being like to be in New York would be there's just so much more. So you up, and listen, I've said this. I don't say it anymore because I figured if my representatives haven't heard me for the last 35 years, then I give up. But I've said to them all for years and years, listen, put me in a room, better than auditioning or anything, better than Zoom or anything. If you get me in a room to say hi to somebody, whether it's an audition or a meeting, get me in a room. I'll get it. I'll
Yeah.
get the, and if I don't get it, that's okay. But my best shot over auditioning or self-taping or anything has always been get in a room. And getting in a room means, a lot of the people that are going to create these films and that are LA, New York. So there is a benefit in a way to that. But I agree with you. Listen, the walls are coming down, and you can get yourself out there, and you just have to.
There are some pretty good opportunities in Buffalo coming up, and I think it would be a failure of me to not mention the Casting Buffalo Actors Expo if you're looking to hone your skills.
Oh, absolutely.
So thank you
Yes.
for queuing that up. People are looking for ways to advance in their careers and looking for more resources. The Actors Expo coming up in August.
August 23rd.
August 20th.
At Rich's Atrium.
Yes.
Okay, absolutely. We have all the resources that'll be available from acting coaches. The academic institutions will be there. And it's also just a great way. I think for me, any success that I've had in this business, and that's to credit your point, Bill, it's been through my networking, right? It's Bill, what you said was, put me in a room. A lot of times for, just for me, maybe we can plant those seeds, ahead of time, but I've already sold you before I even have to read, just by me being in the room and me, selling you on my charisma and personality and all of those things. It's going to be a thing. Well, hey, I like that guy. So a part of that is definitely to do at the Actors Expo. Where you can sell yourself, be in that room, in order to make yourself marketable.
Yeah, and not just meet other professionals who could potentially cast you in something, but meeting other actors and other folks within the industry. I think another thing that is crucial to mention is the things that you said actors should work on. Both Peter and Bill mentioned some of these things. Some of them may seem inconsequential at first, right? Some of them may seem monotonous even at times, but I think you have to be at ease with all of that stuff is working towards the greater good of what you can be as an actor potentially.
Absolutely. Bill, I have another question for you. So, given the fact that right now Buffalo has been very popular because of the tax benefits that we can offer, because of the architecture that we have here. We have two functioning, sound stages, studios here. We have a crew base, all of those things. And there has also been, a lot to do about the jobs not being in LA, not shooting in Los Angeles, right? And they're going all over the world. They're going, overseas. They're going to other cities. Tell me your thoughts about that. Right now, LA is losing a lot of work, to other places. How is that industry in LA putting up with that? I guess, how are they dealing with that? How are things in LA? We're grateful for it because we're definitely getting the movies here that are coming to Buffalo, but it's also a thing where a lot of jobs, people are saying, are leaving LA. Have you experienced that?
Uh, uh, Listen, I'm sure there's an ebb and flow all the time, and there are people in the industry that could speak, far better this subject than I can. But I will say this, that it's yeah. The word on the street is, does California need to do they need to be stronger in their own tax incentives? For sure. Make no mistake about it. I just finished two limited series, the second season of Beef and this new show called Aces with Annette Bening. And both of these shot in LA, and it was a great time. It's not like there are not things happening there, but other people offer tax incentives that are far greater than LA. Almost to the point, well, not almost, to the point where it's actually less expensive. I was in Manchester, England, shooting for 4 months, starting last October until the end of February. Um, Now, I don't know if that's the situation for this show that I was working on called Talamasca for AMC, but I will tell you this. There are other examples, one after another. It's less expensive to fly 30 people over and put them up in another place and shoot that. It's less expensive. They're saving money as opposed to shooting in LA where everybody's home. So that just gives you an example of the tax incentive that needs to change. LA is aware of it. They need to do something. Do I think LA is a ghost town? No, and it never will be. It is the heart and center of film and television. You may shoot it somewhere else, but it all comes back there. Post production and everything. And I do think that right now there's an awareness of the ebb and flow of this all, that LA needs to, and California in general, the entire state needs to figure out something that's stronger to bring more things back there. But, listen, so it's a little bit more of people taking things on the road, but it's not, they didn't shut the doors on LA is what I'm saying.
So to pivot here, we do.
You know what? I just want to make one point about something we were talking about the expo coming up.
Sure.
And I love the fact that it's an opportunity for actors in Buffalo to go into a place. And it's just not something that's happening with you or a class you're taking or friends that you have, but you're going into a place where you're going to meet, industry professionals and you guys and all of these people to get a chance to experience it. This is an awesome thing. It's an awesome thing for the talent in Buffalo because you know what? It's great to be around people that are, that are sharing your journey. I will say this to young actors. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of, people have well, I'm going to do this and I'm doing this. I remember my first waiting tables job at Leo Lindy's in Times Square. And there were, what do you call it? There were young actors, because we were all young actors waiting tables at Leo Lindy's. And there were some of the young men and women in there were like, well, I'm going to do this and I want to meet this person and that. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. Or somebody, a famous producer or director would come in and they'd be in your section. Oh my God, are you going to talk to them about this? I remember this actually happened one time where a fellow actress waiter said to me, oh my God, do you know who's in your section? Are you going to talk to them? And I'm like, no, what am I going to say to them? Don't know me. What I'm going to say to them, I'm going to treat them really well and hope they give me a great tip. But you know what I am going to do? It inspires me to be around somebody like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go home tonight and I'm going to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to work on this scene and really discover this thing that I'm working on this for this scene study class because that's the thing. So I want to say to all you young actors out there, listen, it's not about being in favor. It's not about the light shining the greatest on you. Are you that person when you open your mouth and you get an audition through you guys in Buffalo or wherever you go? Are you that person that goes in there and are you yourself and confident with your work and what you're doing and taking chances with choices? Are you that person? Because I'm going to tell you something. everybody is looking for original, you know, and whatever you do, you young actors out there, nobody does it quite the way you do it. So have confidence in this thing that you do. Care about your work, care about the choices that you make. You can't figure out what everybody's looking for, and it's never going to happen. You don't know that. You have to walk in and just be so original. You might change the mind of somebody and go, you know what? We were thinking about that, but that
Yeah.
is happening. So be that actor. Be that
That's
one that invests in completely in yourself. Not what other people think of you, what you think of you. Have confidence in your own work.
That's such an amazing point. And again, for a lot of the people that are watching the podcast, again, I tell students all the time, Bill, you made it about the work, right? Like it's I have actors that will complain, about payment or about, hey, it's too many people auditioning. And it's refreshing to hear that you're referring back to the work. Make choices, stand out, be original, because that's how you get cast, right? Like it's all about the work. And given that, now I wanted to transition to another question for you. Given that you've made this point about the work, what type of roles do you seek now? Right? Is it about the paycheck that you're getting, or is it about characters? Is it about the storyline? What I guess what drives you to the choices of work that you're in now?
Well, listen, it is not that we all don't need to get paid and we work and it's what I do for a living and have been making a living at it for a long, long time, knock on wood. But and I don't wear this as a badge of honor, but I've never taken a film or television job or any job for that matter that was solely based on, oh, I got to do this for the money. It's not that listen, I've had a couple of times in my life where I really needed to work. I had two young sons. I got offered something once that was for more money than I had ever been paid for whatever my scale is. And I remember I hadn't worked for about 8 months. And I took the script down to my garage and I read it and I got halfway through it. And I went back upstairs and my wife was like, what do you think? And I'm like, oh, it's horrible. I threw it out. Um, if I don't believe in it and I don't believe that there's something good there, I have a fear of I don't want to be bad, and I've got to feel like I can find something. And there are times when I can, and then it's just about the money, and I just have it's a hard bridge for me to cross. Like I say, listen, sometimes that has not been beneficial to me, but it is what it is. So I don't take things for money, and that's not like I don't want to get a great deal on things, but to me, if you don't believe in it, I don't know what you're going to do with it. Twirl the mustache and pretend something. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun getting it together. Um, Now, as far as like roles go and what's appealing, uh, I never know. Listen, there was a film actually it won Best Picture called Crash years ago, and I remember, my manager agent calling and saying, "Listen, there's a the writer director would like to meet you. There's a role in this film. It's only uh, it's just one scene." And I'm like, well, I always tell my reps, listen, don't make the call for me. I'll read it. I always do that. I'll read it. So they sent it to me and I read the whole script and I really loved the script. And it was one scene. And I called him back and I said, I'll play a one scene part like that any day of the week. And I was in. There wasn't a lot of money involved, but it didn't matter. I mean, I creatively felt I want to do this. I want to be a part of this. And then I look at it like, you know, whether it's a small part or a big part, it's a piece of the puzzle of whatever's going to make this project together. Um, Honor your piece of the puzzle because I've always said, listen, if there was a big blackboard over here and everything that I'd ever worked on if I put that thing up there, the banner of that job, I want to put it up there because I'm proud of what it is. Not something, well, I just kind of did, phone that one in for the money or something. I'm not proud. You're not going on my wall. So you always got to have a great sense inside, or at least I do. And that determines a lot of the things that I choose.
Bill, let me ask you right now, you have so much experience, so many years of being in this industry. What's next for you, right? And what I mean by that is that you've been an amazing performer. Usually the transition is, hey, I'm going to be a performer, and now I'm going to write, I'm going to direct, I'm going to produce, I'm going to do all those things. What's next on your plate that you haven't accomplished that you're looking to do?
Listen, I don't have particular goals like that of clicking off a list of things. Everything is so individual. It's never a particular kind of part. Sure, you want to work with great directors, but it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I never knew Michael Mailer, but I had one phone call with him for 45 minutes, and I'm like, I'm in. And I've had that happen with other indie directors that were Michael's not a first time director, but I've had that circumstance with first time directors that I'm in. Um, so what's going to be next? I don't know. This last year, it seems like the business has changed. They don't make as many films anymore. I think the whole world of Marvel and DC, which is very exciting stuff, I guess, if it's your cup of tea, and it's a lot of people's cup of tea. But it seems like a lot of that middle range thing, they used to make just so many more movies. Now it feels like, with all streaming and AMC and Netflix and Hulu and this, it feels like a lot of these limited series are almost taking the place of like films. In a way. There's so much more in that world. 20 years ago, any actor that worked in movies really didn't, a lot of them didn't want to work in television. That ship has sailed. Everybody wants to do good things, and so many great things are happening in the world of television right now. What am I going to do next? If I have one thing that I really want to get together, it's a film that you guys are aware of called The Genesee, based on a true story that took place in 1967, in the summer of 67, in Angola, New York. We got mighty close last summer to shooting it, and things fell apart, and that happens in indie film. But it's kind of a recalibration, and the goal now is to target next year. And it's hard. There's a lot of financial considerations to raise the money, and it's just I really have said this, over and over, but making an indie film is just one of the most difficult things I've ever done, ever. It's yeah, it's a lot of prayers and a lot of juggling and a lot of pieces to a puzzle, but that's the thing that I want to do most, is to make this film. But in the meantime, I'm going to go to Toronto and work on something I think is pretty cool.
Awesome.
So,
Bill, real
go ahead.
quick, Peter,
Oh, what?
real quick, Peter. This has been a phenomenal so far, and I've just been kind of mesmerized and haven't really spoke that much, but it's because I'm learning so much as well. And like you mentioned, Buffalo seems to be like this cultivating type of city. And I think that's at a very, very great spot for us to be in for this film world. And I keep on thinking back to when you just mentioned, the hope that we get to make the Genesee with you. Is I look back at Coldbrook and that summer and how much fun that summer was. Felt like summer camp, and we were young and we were all in it together and learning as we go and kind of hoping for the best. And it was an amazing experience and one of my favorite experiences on film. And I wasn't even casting. Harry was casting. I was your second on that film. And there's a lot of memories that really associate with that. And for that, look at how far we've come as an industry since we shot Coldbrook, as a company, as everything. And I think it's really truthful that Buffalo is a cultivating city, and continuing that with every film that we have, and with the notes that you've been able to pass along to these actors of, prepare for what's next, prepare for what's right for you. I am even more pumped to see what Buffalo is going to have for the future and what we can make together. It's really been, this has been a very, very beautiful podcast that I've been basically a listener for, but I am very, very grateful to be that today. So thank you, Bill.
Oh, you're so welcome. Kyle, I want to point out when we had on April 25th, when we did a screening of Cutman, there was something very unusual in a good way that night that we saw Cutman because, um, we got the good folks at the North Park Theater. God bless them. They opened up the doors to us and gave us that theater that night to do this. Um, we invited a lot of people, and the truth is, no matter what happens with Cutman, it's probably going to be, if it gets a theatrical release, if it does, which is not easy, it may be in an art house sort of thing, a Lemley sort of theaters. But that night we have 450 people come and see the film. The truth about it is that film's never going to have 450 people come and see it again unless it goes to a big festival and it plays in a large theater. We don't know. But one of my favorite moments of that whole night, because I went on stage to introduce Tim Clark and Cindy Abbott-Letro introduced me. I went up there and introduced Michael Mailer, and Michael spoke for a few minutes very eloquently about the film, really queued it up just right. But my favorite moment of the night was to say, listen, this film was shot in Buffalo on a wing and a prayer. So for everybody in the audience that worked on this film, whether it was in casting or being a background player or crew members and sound and gaffers and this and that, our DP Matt Quinn, could you please stand up? Now, I think about 100, 125 people stood up that day.
Yeah,
I got to tell you, talking to my friends afterwards, I invited a bunch of friends. We went to that bar down the street, that little micro brewery. And I think all of my friends said, we had no idea that many people were here in Buffalo working on this. That there was, when all of these people stood up, I was like, it was more people than I thought were going to stand up. And it was just an absolute beautiful sight because people, the applause that broke out when 125 people stood up, the applause, and that's a small indie film, but these people had a connection to it, were part of it. The applause that broke out was so heartwarming because people were like, holy shit, all these people are from Buffalo and they worked on this? Great moment. More to come.
Well, Bill, we're so thankful for you to provide that opportunity to Buffalo people, and we see you as an icon and a hero to us all. So thank you for everything. This has been an incredible episode. I mean,
Absolutely.
truly incredible. There's going to be a lot of listeners, a lot of people that should know about August 23rd, the Casting Buffalo Actors Expo, and it's a huge month because there's also the Buffalo 48-Hour Film Project in that mix. So everyone get ready for a huge August in filmmaking. Mr. William Fichtner, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Listen, I wish I could be with you. I'm literally on a plane on that day that you have the expo. I can't be with you this year, but we'll stay in touch with it. And with a little bit of luck and please, because that's what happens with indie film. You need a lot of prayers answered. But hopefully, if everything comes together and next summer we do get a chance to shoot the Genesee, it's a period piece and it's going to be an opportunity to involve an awful lot of people. And you guys know the script, and there's a lot of casting in this. And yes, there are some key roles that I may not find in Buffalo, and I'm going to need to find an actress somewhere in the world. But there's an awful lot of parts that I'm gonna. Well, we'll look at Coldbrook's an example, a small little film like that. But I think out of the 34 speaking parts in Coldbrook, I think 25 were cast in Buffalo.
Yeah.
Whether it's small or medium or whatever like that, we had an awful lot of people, and we're gonna have to do that again. And that's on you guys. You're going to have to be better than you've ever been. Let me tell you something. You're going to have to be like the Bills this year. You're going to have to knock it out of the park. Come on.
I love it.
go.
I love it.
I don't think there's a better send-off than that, my
No, it's
friends.
not.
And that is the latest episode of Casting Buffalo.
Thank you, Bill.
All right.
You guys,
Thank
man.
you, Bill.
Please,
Thank you.
Take care. Go Buffalo. Go
All right.
Bills.
Go Bills.
See you guys. That's a wrap.
All right, guys.
I love you, Buffalo.
For all of your insurance needs, make sure you contact Craig Willoughby over at Willoughby Insurance, 716-885-8100. Make sure you ask for Craig and tell him Casting Buffalo sent you for special rates. My boy Willoughby will when nobody will.
Look, if you work in film, you know how brutal the hours can be. Long days, unpredictable schedules. There's barely enough time to eat healthy for yourself, let alone work out before or after set. Staying in shape almost feels impossible. That's exactly why Ascend Fitness remote coaching exists. Whether you're on set or just juggling a busy life, this isn't a generic program. It's 100% customized to you, your schedule, your goals, your equipment, and even how you feel day to day. You'll get a fully personalized plan, expert coaching, and real accountability so you always know exactly what to do, no matter how crazy life gets. And right now, they're offering an exclusive deal. Sign up for 1 month and get the second month free, but only for the first 10 people. Spots will go fast. Go to trainascend.com and book your free coaching call before they're gone.
Looking for an unforgettable dining experience in Buffalo? Head to Daniela Restaurant, where every bite feels like home. Whether you're craving classic Italian favorites or exploring something new, Daniela's menu has something for everyone, from handcrafted pastas made with love and the finest ingredients. And it's not just about the food. Daniela's warm, welcoming atmosphere is perfect for a date night, family dinner, or special celebration. Plus, with a carefully curated wine list, the perfect pairing is just a sip away. So why wait? Head over to Daniela today. Come for the food. Stay for the experience.
Do you love horror movies? Here on Getting Scarried Away, we sit down to talk about what we love about the genre, shout out fellow horror creators, and spill buckets of useless horror knowledge for your next trivia night. Join me, Ricky Needham, and my co-host, Rhiannon Needham, as we dive headfirst into your favorite horror movies. Subscribe today anywhere you get your podcasts.